Okay, welcome back. Solo role Mangging, Shadow the Weird Wizard in Castle Xyntillan. I think mostly we can kind of consider this an interactive let's read Castle Xyntillan. We're running combat encounters, of course, and certain other things we're working with, but we're kind of just reading through the module for the most part. We're going in order through the rooms and skipping over a lot of these little traps or weird mechanics, and it's just kind of interesting to comment and poke fun at some of this nonsense that's occurring while also running combat encounters. So, yeah, I think it's better than just sitting here and reading the module to you, or sitting here and reading it myself. So, yeah, last time we ended on this chapel fight against 8 dark monks, skeletal monks. I went ahead and actually put them into my bestiary here as skeletal ravagers. Pretty similar to just base skeletons. I gave them 1 less defense. I switched their strength over to agility. And then instead of a sword, they have claws. And if the damage dice comes up 6, add an extra d6. Is that worth... I mean, is that a trade-off of losing 1 defense? I don't know. I mean, swapping strength and agility is also a notable thing, somewhat. They're pretty similar to just base skeletons. Obviously, I would say a bit more dangerous, maybe. If there was like a difficulty 1.3, maybe that's where they'd be at. But I don't want to spec them as difficulty 2, even though I could. We could bump up some stuff, but, I think it's fine. It's fine. They might come up some other time. Alright, then I think we left, and we leveled up to 2, and we kind of recovered everything. Got all our spells back. With level 2, Milligar got a bonus damage, which is pretty nice, so he's clawing now for 5d6. 6 on crits. He also got Wild Vigor, 1 hour per day, increases health by 10, and increases bonus damage dice by 1. Nice little buff. The other stuff, not too relevant for the most part. But I'm trying to remember to have enemies grab and trip a bit more. And, because I don't think, I think I'm playing skeletons a little dumber than they should be. Zombies are pretty dumb. They are just like direct, straight on, and just laser focused, trying to just claw you and grab you and blah blah blah. And even those I should be rolling with grabs. But skeletons should be a little bit smarter. Not that smart. I mean, not really elaborate tactics or anything, but yeah, like the ones with the claws here, the dark monks, probably should have been trying to grab or trip or something. And so I believe that's going to be like against strength or agility. Tripping is against target's choice of strength or agility. Grabbing is versus agility. And then wrestling is target's choice of strength or agility. We do have pretty good agility. So we'll probably lean in that direction, but imposing a Bane on strength, a strength roll. I don't know. Anyways, we also got Interpret Omen, 3 per day reactions. Basically add 3 or subtract 3 from any attribute or luck roll around me. Pretty solid. We've had that before on another character. We also got Shared Recovery, so now we can heal for free. And Holy Symbol, I believe, is now twice per day. Because Holy Symbol and Mage Implement, I believe, are just a number of times equal to your level. Holy Symbol, number of charges equal to your level. Mage Implement, number of charges equal to your level. So, pretty good. As for Synthis, we got Spell Recovery, doubles our spell castings for the day, which is pretty good. And we grabbed Pyromancy as a new tradition. We can shape fires, we can ignite things on fire at will. We got Fire Arrows once per day. Up to 3 creatures or objects within 15. Will versus Agility, 3d6 damage to each. Just a little bit of AoE. And Jet of Flames, 3 times, 2d6 damage, then a will roll versus Agility to catch fire. Crits do an extra 2d6. That's pretty much it. Level 2 is not super impactful for most characters, but it's pretty good. These are nice upgrades, and we got more health, so... I didn't roll for the ambush on the way out last time. We were kind of rushing there. But I already sold that hand mirror, I think, that I picked up. So, that's that. So let's just continue moving on. Go back the next day. And we're moving on to B13, the Cleric's Room. Far from the modest chapel, the retreat of its former cleric is a den of sybaritic decadence. Soft pillows, posh tapestries, mostly depicting comely young nymphs and dryads, an intricately carved chestnut table, and an inviting canopied bed round out the scene. This is just... blasphemous. This is heresy. The portrait of the Holy Father, a corpulent, smiling fellow with sausage-like fingers, surveys his domain with a look of approval. The portrait conceals a liquor cabinet holding 5 bottles of the best, 150 gold pieces each. Heals 1d6 plus 1 HP. That's it. I mean, surely it's pretty potent alcohol, right? There's a secret door found behind a tapestry in the southern wall. And then I guess also leads to those... the old wine barrels of excellent vintage. Under the bed, there's a stash of most immodest literature. Heaving Bosoms, The Knight and the Knave, The Tribulations of Rose. Oh, hold on now. Hold on now. Most immodest literature. I'm asking ChatGPT to come up with some humorous titles for steamy romance novels in a D&D setting. 50 Shades of Fae. Oh, come on. I mean, that's good, right? That's good. I don't know if it stole that from somewhere else. Probably. I mean, it must have, right? But that's pretty good. 50 Shades of Fae. A Rogue's Guide to Stealing Hearts. Entangled in the Web of Love. The Drider's Desire. Hot Nights in the Fire Plane. Armor Off, Love On. My Orcish Overlord. Lich My Lips. The Cleric's Confessions, Forbidden in the Temple. Jesus. Tentacles of Passion, An Aboleth Affair. That's some, like, deviant fetish shit right there. Okay, nothing tops 50 Shades of Fae, though. I need to Google that to see if anyone else has ever mentioned that. They must have. Oh, yeah, here it is. So there's an adventure on the DM's Guild titled 50 Shades of Fae. And there's a Labyrinth fanfic on fanfiction.net titled 50 Shades of Fae. So I'm pretty certain ChatGPT did not just come up with that of its own accord, because that's not how large language models operate. But still, it's whoever did originally come up with it. Kudos to them, because that's pretty great. All right, anyways. And I think many of these are just more humorous than the Knight and the Knave and stuff, if you want to throw some humor in. And this whole adventure does seem slightly humorous in a lot of ways, so I'd lean in that direction. All right, we also find the grotesque, bloated body of the cleric decomposing in the northern passage, his back against the interior door. If approached, he raises his head, looking at the party as a large, ugly toad emerges from his putrescent mouth. He collapses back on the floor as soon as the toad had escaped. Okay, so the northern passage, I assume, is this little section here. His back is against the interior door. Oh, I assume you mean this door to the prayer room. So otherwise, it's like he's blocking this door. Yeah, that makes no sense. Okay, so we'd have to, like, step over his corpse to get to the prayer room. An upside-down silver cross on the wall is cursed, turning soot black upon touch. Holding it for more than a round inflicts a horrible disease on the character. Save or -3 to all rolls. Death within 1d3 plus 1 weeks. After passing on the plague, the cross turns into charcoal, worthless. Okay, so, I mean, that's it. That's it. There's no treasure here or anything like that. You'd go into this room in the back, you'd step over this guy's bloated corpse, and you find a silver cross on the wall upside down. Now, I guess a lot of players would probably just leave it there, but I'm guaranteed plenty of, like, people trying to roleplay a cleric or something would be like, well, we're going to turn that right side up. And as soon as they, well, I guess if they just turn it, it turns soot black. If they take it, essentially, that's basically it. If they take it off the wall, then you have to make a save, or you get -3 to all your rolls until you die 1d3 plus 1 weeks later. And then it turns into worthless charcoal. And that's it. That's your big reward. Okay. How would I run that? I mean, I would do the save, and then I'd say, okay, I'd probably just do cursed, because that's a bane on all luck rolls, and that's what kind of makes sense. And so you're cursed. And then I'd probably, like, I'd probably tell them that they have a feeling of just imminent doom, you know? Like, they are cursed by some sort of, you know, demonic entity or something, and they just feel like if they don't cleanse this in some way, they're going to suffer some horrible fate, or that's what they feel. I'd make it into some sort of little side quest or something like that. It wouldn't just be like, yeah, all right, you know, you take it, and you got -3 to all your rolls forever, and then a few weeks later in game, it's just like, oh yeah, also you die. So, anyways. Moving on from there, we go all the way up this hallway. Who knows what this empty room is? Feel free to fill it yourself. And we get to the maid's room. Sparsely furnished with a wardrobe, a trunk, a large bed, and a dusty mirror. This room is dark but reasonably intact. The wardrobe is open, containing maid's uniforms, spare bed sheets, and a long dark green felt cloak. If cleaned, the mirror shows a world where living beings are mere shadows and ghosts are flesh and blood. Anyone smashing must roll a saving throw or age 1d100 years, gaining 3% of the XP needed for the next level for every year. Okay. I mean, I guess if you age 100 years, you gain 3 levels. And then probably die. Well, I don't know. Maybe if you're playing an elf, that's like nothing. That's just insane XP gain. The pillows on the bed hide a silver dagger, blackened by age but still sharp and deadly. Rust brown stains have fouled the clean white sheets. There's so many rooms in this dungeon that are just kind of like nothing. And I think that's you're meant to be rolling a lot of random encounters to try and kind of fill up the session and make things exciting and interesting. You know, if we use the underclock, which again, I don't think I ever uploaded the videos where I went over the underclock or used the underclock. But, you know, that's a system where you're basically ticking down from D20. And once it gets to 0, you run a random encounter. That I think you tick down every time they like search a new room. So every time they go into a new room. So if we were running with that and running just like a 1d6 chance every time you go into a new room, that's, you know, quite a bit of potential for a random encounter. Let's roll one right now. 1d6 on a 1. We got a 1. All right, here we go. Random encounters, baby. So I think we're just rolling on the rogues gallery, from what I recall. Wherever that was. Well, I know it's at the end. I just want to... Okay, roll 1d Run Hunter, cross-reference the rogues gallery for a result. Okay. I'm going to go all the way down then to the rogues gallery. And we're rolling 1d100, so it's going to be one of these family members. Or something. What do we get? 55, right towards the middle. So this is the random encounter we get. Frederick Malevol, the melodramatic. Grandiose ghost with flowing beard, frilly silks, and fiery tempers, likes to play roles by possessing party members and declaiming in high thespian, grandstanding in critical situations, and if driven away, hurling random objects via telekinesis. A romantic soul who curtsies before women. Boy. How... I feel... Okay. This is almost more roleplay encounter than, like, you know, sort of combat or anything like that. So there is a ghost in Weird Wizard in the bestiary, and it has spiritual possession as an ability. It's a will roll versus target's will. On a success, target becomes controlled by the ghost. Luck ends. So it's very much short term. On a failure, target takes 1d6 damage and becomes immune to it for 1 hour. While the target is controlled, ghost becomes invisible, immune to harm, knows all that the target knows, can speak with its voice. So I guess that's how I'd run it, is just like this thing sort of is sitting in the wall, like in Dark Souls 1. And it possesses one of the party members. I don't know which one I'd pick, either random or... I don't know. Maybe one that I would think would be humorous to possess. And then it would just... You know, suddenly the character would just start speaking like in a Shakespearean play. I guess. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I would do, right? And then every so often while I was talking and taunting them or something like that, and I wouldn't say that a ghost has possessed them or something. I just had to say, okay, you roll a will, and if they fail, then I'm like, okay, the rest of you all hear so-and-so start talking in a very, Shakespearean way. And then if they succeed on the will roll, the ghost just, like, stumbles out of the wall, and just, like, appears in front of them and looks upset. So there, I mean, ghosts in old school obviously are incorporeal. So they require magic weapons to deal damage. Here, I don't think they're immune to anything. It just has 22 defense, so it has an exceptionally high defense. That's sort of how they, how they've adapted that kind of idea of just being hard to hit. Just, increase its defense to astronomical levels. 22 defense is very high, actually. Let me just look at, like, high-end demons. What do they get? So a type 6 demon, difficulty 64, has a 20 defense. Now, obviously it has 666 health, but still, I mean, this ghost then would have higher defense than a endgame enemy. Endgame boss. Might be the highest defense in the game. I don't. It's very possible. But its attributes are not that insane. So if you're forced to make attribute rolls, it's not really that dangerous. But again, that usually comes in the form of magic. So that's all good, anyways. So for our purposes, I don't know. Like I said, I think it's more of a role-playing thing. If it came to combat, it would just kind of try and flee. And it's incorporeal, and it's insubstantial in Weird Wizards, so I assume that means it can just fly through walls anyways. And it'll hurl random objects via telekinesis. So, I think it's mostly a role-play thing. And for our purposes, I think we're probably just going to re-roll. Just something... I don't know. Less roleplay oriented? I feel like most of these are probably going to be roleplay oriented. That's kind of the fun of it. And I'm not shitting on this at all. I think this is good. I think that would be fun encounter for the most part. To keep things interesting. And I would probably be rolling... I'd probably use the underclock system because I think that's a bit better. It just makes it more reliable, and players know when there's like going to be a random encounter a bit more. But either way, you probably want to be rolling for random encounters fairly often to keep this place interesting. This one, Lydia Malival, the Luckless. Shambling through the corridors in her lavender dress and perpetually surrounded by moths, she drags a sack full of bones. There's a 1 in 2 chance that she's followed by 1d6 headless manservants at a respectful distance. Okay. Now again, you would, you wouldn't, for most random encounters, you want to do a reaction roll. And so the typical old school reaction roll is 2d6, which means that on average, you're going to get the middle result here, which is uncertain or confused. Which means that on average, combat does not initiate straight away from the two seeing each other. If you get a 3 to 5 result, the monsters or creatures will be hostile and they may attack on sight, but not necessarily. If you get 2 or less, and you can get less because usually it can be modified by if anyone tries to talk to them before you do the roll, you can modify by the charisma. So if it's a negative charisma, it could be lower than 2d6. Other effects could modify a reaction roll or nullify the reaction roll entirely. If you encounter a group of goblins and you happen to be like surrounded by a bunch of goblin corpses and your sword is dripping, Like, probably you don't need a reaction rule here to really determine if they're going to be friendly. If you get a 9 to 11, they're indifferent towards you. They may negotiate with you. They're definitely not going to attack on sight or anything. And if you get 12 or more, they are essentially friendly or eager to interact with you in a non-hostile way. Or, you know, perhaps just avoid you or something like that. And you know, they might just turn around and leave you. You know, who knows what. But it's definitely going to be a more positive result. So, I guess let's just roll 2d6 in old school way, and let's see what we get. We got a 9. So, indifferent may negotiate. So, I think in that case, we probably would just play it that this woman who is a ghoul? This seems to imply that she's a ghoul. She attacks with her claws and a bite, and she's got paralysis. So I think she's definitely undead. Probably... Are all the Malevols undead? I should have read the intro. We go back and read the intro here real quick. Okay, the masters of Xyntillan, the Malevol family, have ruled the province since Charlemagne, and perhaps earlier, each generation adding to Xyntillan in its own way. Their corruption and curious habits, which have never put them on good footing with the Bishop of Chamrus, has long haunted their reputation, leading to their spiritual and material decline. At last, the current head of the family, Jean Jacquard Malevol, decided to move to his smaller but less costly and considerably more fashionable summer place in Chamrus, and abandon his family nest to time and the elements. However, that was not the end of the story, for Xyntillan's fabulous treasures and Machiavellian death traps have fascinated the fortune seekers of a dozen lands, and never mind the ghost stories. So, yes, I think it says he's the current head of the family, so I'm pretty sure some of them are alive. I think the guy that ambushes you with the bandits is definitely alive, right? Family members can try to call for help. Roll for immediate follow-up encounter with 1d100 plus 60, treating results over 100 as no encounter. Okay. Let me go back to the rogue gallery real quick. Oh, family members marked with a cross are undead. Okay, yes. So the bandit guy at the start, he is not undead. Many of these are going to be undead, because how big could the family currently be, possibly? But there's quite a few that are not. And they're all just hanging out in the castle. It's a big castle. All right, number 39 then is what we're on. Lydia, she's definitely undead. We knew that. Obviously. And she's got a sack full of bones and possibly being followed by headless manservants. Right, so indifferent. No, we got, indifferent may negotiate. I think indifferent is what we're going to go with. She's just dragging her sack along. Let's roll for the, manservants on a 1. Okay, she does not have her manservants with her. She's just dragging her sack full of bones. Doesn't even really look in our direction. So, you know, we were kind of in here. So maybe we're like in this little nook right here. And she's dragging her sack down this way. Would we attack? Probably. I mean, the fact that she didn't attack us on sight is something. But she is undead. And I did say I want to fight fucking everything. Now, if we look at the stats here for Lydia, pretty weak. She's got 14 health, 13 AC. She's basically a standard ghoul. in practically all aspects. So I think we just run her as, like, standard ghoul. Oh, standard lesser ghoul. I mean, she essentially has the same stats as the other ghouls we fought. 14 health is not much. I just don't think I would bump her up to, like, a difficulty 4. That doesn't seem to be the intention. I could just create a standard ghoul that's a difficulty 2. If I really wanted to flesh out our ghoul supply. But, yeah, honestly, I think it's just a lesser ghoul, and I think this isn't even really an encounter. This is me just beheading her. And that has its own drawback, you know, that whole infraction thing that you're supposed to keep track of. And were I running this, I would definitely be keeping track of that, because I think that's fun. But in our case, yeah, Milligar is just going to see her walk past and then slam his claws into her undead spine. So, yeah, we'll roll for that. He got a 16 plus 4 is 20, so that's going to be a crit of 6d6 damage. Oh, no, not d2. I was about to say, like, that was the worst roll I've ever seen. 26 damage, yes. So he just, like, rips her in half. She's got a Serpentile Bracelet, a lorgnette, a faded purse with 3d10 gold pieces, and an old love letter addressed to herself. Okay. I mean, I guess 3d10 is what you say. It was 14. 14 gold, cut in half is 7 gold, 7 silver. Could cut it in half again, but sure, 7 silver. Okay, not much of a random encounter. But that's mostly because we want to kill everything in sight, so what do you expect? Okay, moving on. We have this closet. Simple worm-eaten furniture stands by the walls. It's obvious from all the dust and cobwebs that no one has set foot in here for years. An empty glass bottle labeled Spirits stands on a nightstand and smells faintly of alcohol. Brilliant. What did you expect? It's just a closet. In the servants' area. Into the bath. Wooden tubs filled with lukewarm water. Something large lurks within. A grotesque giant toad displaying a toothy grin. The docile beast doesn't fight unless in self-defense, but looks pleadingly upon the party and emits croaking sounds, expecting to be fed. Be warned, a kiss does it no good, but transfers its deadly poison to the brave PC. Dude, what players were you, like, running this for that are just, like, kissing everything in sight? I mean, this one is probably the most reasonable one that I would maybe expect someone to try kissing it, just because that's like a common trope, or it used to be like 100 years ago. Kissing the toad to turn it into a princess or something. So, okay, maybe I could see that. And I think this text is a little justifiable in that case. It's like, no, you're a dumbass, now you're poisoned. There's also a greasy jar of unguents, which is infused with the toad's poison. 3 doses. Is that something that interests you? Is it something that interests me? So it's just like an ointment. It's like a poison ointment. That I guess you could put on arrows or a weapon, or I don't know, just rub on somebody's skin. So I think you're gonna want to have gloves to handle that, but I think it's just implied or assumed that every D&D character is wearing gloves. right? Why would you not? It's a nasty world out there. Again, I think we'll just kind of leave this. I don't have anything to make fun of here or comment, really. I think it's a decent room. And what we're missing here, of course, like all my solo RPG stuff, but mostly in the modules, is the tendency for players to make mountains out of molehill. The tendency of players to go in a direction and become tunnel visioned on one thing, and it becomes a major focal point. I mean, you hear stories about this time and time again across every group, really, that they just become laser focused on something the DM never really anticipated. And so it's good form, good practice for a DM to just throw random things around. Not random necessarily in the sense that they're completely out of place and just are nonsensical, but random and just like, I as a DM don't know why this would be here, or I don't have a plot line, or I don't have anything meaningful of why this is here or what it could lead to, but it could lead to something. And so yeah, just put a grotesque giant toad here that just looks pleadingly at the party and just see what happens. You know, yeah, someone might kiss it, sure, but they might think that this is like, who knows what, they might become convinced that it's like a trapped person or something and they have to try and free them, or who knows what. I mean, you never know. That's the point. That is the whole point. So I think that's a fine little encounter in this bath. Just for our purposes, we don't have much, unless we just want to kill a defenseless toad and gain absolutely nothing out of it. If I were to kill a giant toad, what would I stat it as? I don't know. Do I have giant toad? I don't think I have a... Maybe I have a giant toad. I have a gigantic frog, difficulty 1. There's a gigantic lizard, difficulty 4. Neither one has, like, poisonous skin. So I'd have to kind of stat it as its own thing. They have it as AC of 12, 17 hit points, 1d8 bite, and poisonous skin. I don't know, I'd probably just run it as the gigantic frog, but if they... The poisonous skin would come into play if they touch it or kiss it or something. Moving on. The sitting room. This room is comfortably stocked with plush chairs and divans. A dead lady wearing a circlet with 3 opals worth 1,000 gold pieces sits in a chair before a mirror, looking vainly upon her own reflection. If the diadem is taken, the head falls off and hits the floor with a hollow thud. Not much in there, that's for sure. So again, you can just take it. You just take the circlet with 3 opals, and it's worth a shit ton of money. And there's 0 drawback whatsoever outside of maybe the infraction system. But, you know. But again, the thing is, your players don't know that there's no repercussions. And they just see a dead lady sitting in a chair wearing this, like, opulent circlet, staring at her own reflection. It's like, you know, who knows? They should be pretty wary, considering how much fuck you stuff there could be. We're gonna leave it because we don't really need money and we're just kind of going through. Servants' quarters. Simple but sturdy furnishings have been wrecked over and looted. Concealed in the wreckage are the 16 pearls of a torn necklace. Pearls are 200 gold pieces each. That's 3,200 gold total. But the pieces are progressively harder to find. 4 in 1 turn, 4 in 2 more, 4 in 3 more, and the final 4 in 4 more, and you have to keep rolling encounter checks. These are turns. So that's 10 minutes. So to find all of them would take 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, an hour and 40 minutes. And you roll an encounter check every 10 minutes. So that would be 10 encounter checks. you're going to get a random encounter if you're searching for all those pearls. But at the same time, it's kind of worth it, and that's a shit ton of money. And yeah, you could barricade the door in there, and it's like a nice secluded thing, and that helps. But many of the random encounters involve ghosts that are just coming through the walls and shit, so there's no real safety in the castle, which is cool. I think that's good. As it is, we're not gonna... I don't know what I would do with money at this point. I mean, I guess we'll spend 10 minutes finding 4 pearls. Obviously not 200 gold pieces each. Let's see, 100, 50 silver each. Even that's a fuck ton, man. We gotta drop that down massively. 1 gold each, honestly. It's such a... Each one of these pearls could buy a full plate armor set, which means they should be worth 25 gold pieces each. But, yeah, no. So I'll roll 1 random encounter check. 1d6, nothing. Moving on. I think that's it for B's. Yeah, now we go into the Gothic wing. Ooh. Where is letter C on this? There's K, there's B, there's... Oh, C is upstairs, maybe? I think so. It's upstairs, because we got the stairs right here. I don't know how this staircase makes any sense. It goes up from here, but there's no way at the base to go up. No, I think you enter here, and it has an up arrow, because if it had a down arrow, that would mean they're going down. So, I understand, it's just a little weird. Okay, so we go in here, and we're gonna go up to letter C, the 2nd floor. We're skipping around the floors a little bit. Let me find that image. Not the dungeon, the upper east? No, this is correct. Oh, there's actually 3 floors. But here's Gothic Wing's 2nd floor. So we head up the stairs cautiously. And we come up here this way, up here this way. First door on our left is Adelaide's room. This boudoir is heavy with the scent of stale incense and faded flowers, stacked with dried bouquets on dressers and settees. Worthless bric-a-brac depicting a bewildering number of cats litters the place. There's a 1 in 3 chance of finding Adelaide Malival the Splendid here in a company of several black cats. And there's a further 50% chance they're feasting on a skinned, decomposing cadaver. Alright, well, let's roll our 1 in 3. We got a 1. She is here. And as for the chance the cats are eating a corpse. Yep, they sure are. Okay, well, that's quite the sight, then. Skinned, decomposing cadaver. Alright, so our rogues gallery, we're looking for number 3 here. She is undead. Pale young dame sheathed in dazzling array of silks and brocades, followed by the overpowering smell of hyacinth, and a procession of black cats who are just as happy to purr and allow to be petted as to shred someone into bits. So, an average cat, is what you're saying. They're average cats. Okay. Absent-minded and erratic. 1 in 2 chance of mood swing during encounter. Flirty, demure, morose, hysterical, treacherous, elusive. Yeah, I wish it went a bit more into, like, their personality. I think that would make it a lot easier for a DM. Just, like, even if it was, like, 3 words. Just 3 words for each one of these. That's just kind of their personality or their interest, like what they want, or I don't know, something. That would just make it a lot easier. I mean, we get the option here that for her to have a mood swing, and each one of these mood swings, like, okay, I can kind of run with that. But if she doesn't have a mood swing, what the fuck is her mood? What is her personality? I don't know. She likes cats. As for her stats, she's got a hairpin that can do poison, 20 health, 13 AC. She can turn into a whirlwind. Okay. For 3d6 damage per round, save for half. She's got an ivory cameo worth 2,500 gold pieces. And a potion of gaseous form. There's also stats for the cat swarm. 3 of them. Dealing 3d4 damage. God damn. Those cats will kill you. Oh boy. So trying to just think of what kind of undead she is. She can turn into a fucking whirlwind. But she's not, I don't know, she's not like a banshee or anything. And good, because the banshee here is difficulty 16. She attacks with a hairpin, which is a very physical attack. I don't think you can fit her in any sort of neat category. So she's a physical undead. She's not a ghost. It's just the whirlwind thing throws me off so much. I don't know what form of undead can ever turn into a whirlwind. But yeah, I don't think we're looking at shadows or phantoms or poltergeists. We're not looking at anything insubstantial here. So, something undead, something skeletal. I guess skeletal, or she's pale. She's like a revenant or something. I don't know. 20 health, 3d6 damage and a whirlwind per round. Certainly seems to imply fairly dangerous individual. So Revenant might not be too far off. The Revenant depicted here is difficulty 4, 14 defense, 60 health. It's definitely more of like an undead mercenary kind of thing. I'd have to stat it from scratch, of course, but I don't know, it seems not far off. As for the cat swarm, ooh boy. There is stats for a swarm enemy. Difficulty 4 as well, defense 16, 40 health, and this can be any sort of swarm of creatures. It says bats, rats, carnivorous fish, insects, birds. Anything small in large numbers. Size 5. So 3 of those, this would be quite the encounter. It's not a random encounter, so I don't know if we really need to roll a reaction, but I think in this case I probably would roll a reaction just because I have no idea how to handle this otherwise. So let's roll 2d6. Alright, 8. So it's cautious. It's uncertain. I think probably she would just turn as she's like petting one of her cats and just be like, you know, what are you doing in my room kind of thing. Because it is her room. This is specifically her room, and she's occupying it. And we just wander in. And maybe we hear a couple growls from the cats or something, you know, and it's just like, yeah, maybe we should just leave. Probably should just leave. So we're actually going to skip C2, the bedroom. We're just going to back out, because I don't feel confident about that encounter. That's Gothic Wing 2. Gothic Wing, here we go. So what did we miss then in this room and the next? Among the cat-themed artifacts is a jade cat figurine and a reed basket containing 9 cat mummies preserved in tar. Each with inset pearl eyes, worth 100 gold pieces each. Jesus. Another 1,800 gold pieces plus 400 gold pieces. But these cats will haunt the dreams of the Eye Stealer, and he will have no rest for 1d3 plus 1 nights unless the curse is broken. On the last night, a cat swarm will attack in his dream, and if the character is killed, he will be found dead with his eyes closed out. Yeah, alright, there you go. In the bedroom, 1d12 pale phantoms dancing in the incense smoke. A splendid coat made of cat fur is slung on the 4-poster bed. Smoke is slightly intoxicating, -1 to saves for an hour after leaving the room. If inhaled, it grants lurid visions of lavish fetes. The save penalty lasts for a day, but character is befriended by one of the Malevals seen in the vision. The luxurious black fur coat laid on the bed is worth 2,200 gold pieces if the smoky smell is gotten rid of, and may be worn as a cloak +2. However, it is cursed, bringing bad luck in the form of various manifestations of misfortune at GM's discretion. Destroying the fur breaks the curse with a loud meow. Okay. The 1d12 pale phantoms dancing in the incense smoke seems pretty dangerous. If you max roll that one. Because, let's see, they got a touch attack, 1d6 plus Ice Fear, which gives -1 to all rolls, cumulative per hit, and at -3 you have to save or die from sheer terror. Yeah, so that's great. What is the weakest ghost in Weird Wizard? Because that's what we'd want to put here when there's 1d12 of them. Let me see. It might be the actually one titled Ghost. That's difficulty 4. Difficulty 1, there's a Cliff Haint. Is that a ghost of some kind? A Haint? Haint sounds kind of like an old Gaelic ghost creature or something. Maybe. Cliff Haint. No, it's not. It's definitely a creature. Humanoid bodies covered in mottled fur that helps them blend in. I don't know what a haint is. Anyways, a haunt. There you go. That's definitely an undead. 100%. Haunt. Yep, spirit. Difficulty 1. Perfect. Defense of 15, health of 5. They're invisible by default. And they lose their invisible trait when they take their action until the start of their next turn. Each enemy that can see it makes a will roll. On a success, the creature becomes immune to frightening manifestation for 1 hour. On a failure, it takes 1d6 damage and becomes frightened of the haunt. Luck ends. It's sort of similar, but 12 of those, man? And they all would go at once. And so it'd be like 12 will rolls. And you have to keep rolling until you succeed. And every time you fail, until you succeed, take 1d6 damage. I could very well see this just wiping out, and that's just a TPK in one round. If enough people just fail will rolls, it's definitely possible. I think it's kind of in line, though, with the encounter as intended. I just am not sure. I think there's one other difficulty, one undead ghost creature. Let me look. It's a shade. Or it's a type of shade. Mains. 10 defense, 10 health. If killed by anything other than a god or demon, it returns to life after 24 hours. Well, returns to life. It's undead. It's a spirit. Attacks +0 with 1 Bane to do 1d6 damage. And at the end of the round, it makes a luck roll. If it fails, it becomes confused until the end of the next round. Alright, that's like a difficulty 0.4 kind of creature. +0 with 1 Bane to do 1d6 damage. I mean, Jesus. So I don't know. I'd probably just come up with it myself. Maybe take that haunt thing and just change it to do damage or something. I don't know. That's probably what I would do. But we skipped that whole room, so we're moving on. And we're going up to this other bedroom, C3. Which is just in the hallway. Look at this. There's not even a door. What the heck? This is just an open bedroom in the hallway. And I don't think you can even get to C... Where's C4? The lesser library. I don't think you can even get there from where we are. A pleasant little retreat after nights of rowdy revelry. Satin-covered divans with soft pillows surround a small table set with cordials and glasses. Soothing music chimes gently. One of the drafts is a potion of healing. Ooh, I'll grab that. Elixir of healing. The room is safe to rest in. Really? It's not a room. It's the end of the hallway. But the music causes a deep slumber. Guards must save or fall asleep. You sleep 1d6 weeks. Holy shit. And if you roll a 6 on that number, it becomes 1d6 years. And if you roll a 6 on that one, it's forever. That's a TPK. Well, I don't really know. It says the music causes a deep slumber. I assume that's for everybody sleeping there. And then it says guards must save or fall asleep. I think this last part is for anyone that is sleeping, regardless of if they went asleep on purpose or if they incidentally fell asleep. So I don't know exactly what you would do if some of you fell asleep and some of you didn't. How would I run it? I'd probably just say that they would have to be taken out of the castle. Obviously, I wouldn't just say, like, yeah, they're sleeping for another 4 weeks, actually, so I don't know. I'd probably just have them be taken out of the castle, but that's its own kind of effort to haul your buddies out of the castle, especially if, like, 4 of them are asleep and there's only 2 awake. And there's chances of random encounters on the way and getting ambushed on the way out or something like that. But yeah, I wouldn't make it too severe of a penalty. But yeah. Anyways, so to get to C4, we have to go up through this location. And I don't even know where that is. Is that the central tower? I don't know, but obviously we can no longer just go room by room. That is where it finally disconnects. So we're gonna have to diverge here. Do we go... Should we just stick with the main floor some more? Because I think D is the third floor or the second part of the Gothic wing. I think it's the third floor. Gothic wing 2, third floor. Yeah. So we can't get there either unless... No, I have no idea how to get there. It's not the best map. I think we can all agree, if nothing else, this whole thing is not the best map, because the stairs are not even labeled. Oh, wait, right here. Here is maybe that thing that goes up. Okay, then maybe we're good. But then the dimensions don't make any sense. Dimensions don't make any sense. This is on the opposite. This is to the west of that staircase. That staircase should be like right here then. Doesn't make any sense. Alright, anyways, I guess we'll go down, we'll go up this step. We're gonna keep going in order, just because it makes it easier. Getting pretty wild, though. The odds of a group traveling in perfect numerical order like this, never gonna happen. Never, ever gonna happen, but we're doing it. Alright, so that dumps us out right into the lesser library. It's a 2-level thing, so we can actually see it goes up and there's like a balcony then. And you can see here, kind of overlooks the lesser library a bit, sort of. I guess. I don't know exactly how that's laid out, but... a mere shadow of its companion, L2, this comfortable 2-level room is mostly dedicated to lighter reading. Romance, adventurous yarns, pamphlets with lurid tales, travelogues, and poetry are found. Now, that's actually a really good reminder that if you're DMing this for a group, you shouldn't be reading the text for each room out loud as written. Because if this is the, one of the first rooms they get to, or early on, and you just say, this is a mere shadow of its companion, L2, it's like... Yeah, don't do that. So, you have to paraphrase a lot of these descriptions. This comfortable 2-level room is mostly dedicated to lighter reading, blah, 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 yeah. Sequestered behind a row of musical works is an unlabeled booklet containing the insane symphonies of Ludwig von Schreck and a spell book with the spell Irresistible Rondeau. Someone has scribbled, should the hunter hunted be, decipher this mystery. His heart is stone, but a heart he keeps, if you catch him when he's at peace. Irresistible Rondeau. Okay, what is this spell? Oh, apparently it's a spell specifically made for this? I guess it's a spell specifically made for this module. It doesn't exist. I mean, why would it? It's a very strange sounding spell. And, yeah, the module does not explain what that spell is. So, someone else running this just had their player roll on a table of level 3 spells. And they got Fireball. And they say Fireball was a lucky roll, but not a very thematic one. Yeah, I agree. I don't think that's how I would do it. Here's what I would do. I would have ChatGPT tell me. Come up with a 3rd level D&D spell titled Irresistible Rondeau. Okay, here we go. This is what ChatGPT's interpretation of what Irresistible Rondeau would be. It's a 3rd level enchantment spell, range 30 feet, duration up to 1 minute. With a sweeping flourish and a melody that worms its way into the hearts of those around you, you enchant your enemies to dance in an involuntary and rhythmic rondeau. Choose up to 3 creatures of your choice within range. Each target must make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the creature is charmed by you for the duration and begins dancing wildly, moving in a 10-foot circle as their body is compelled to follow the rhythm. While dancing, the creature is incapacitated and cannot take actions or reactions, has its movement speed halved, and must spend any remaining movement on its turn completing the circle. So basically, they can't do anything. They can't take actions or reactions, and the only movement they can do is move in a circle. They get a save and throw again at the end of each of their turns, ending the effect on a success. But when they do succeed on the save, they are disoriented until the end of the next turn, giving them disadvantage on attack rolls and dex saving throws. It seems pretty good. It sounds pretty similar to another spell called Otto's Irresistible Dance. And I don't know what level that is. That's a 6th level spell. It's an enchantment spell that range 30 feet, 1 minute. But it's 1 creature. Has to use all its movement to dance without leaving its space and has disadvantage on dex saving throws and attack rolls. Other creatures have an advantage on attack rolls against it. So basically, ChatGPT came up with just a better, overpowered version of Otto's Irresistible Dance. I can't blame it too much. I'm just going to tell it to make the spell much weaker because it's too powerful. Okay, 1 creature. And it gets disadvantage on dex saving throws. And it must succeed on a dex saving throw at the start of its turn or fall prone as they stumble during the rhythm. And it gets a wisdom saving throw at the end of its turns to end the effect. Okay, so it can do actions. It can do reactions. It doesn't have to spend movement on anything. It just loses control over some of its movements and has to do the dex saving throw at the start of its turn or fall prone. I think that's much more balanced. I just don't know if it's good for a 3rd level spell. I don't know. The idea is there somewhere. But anyways. There's a secret passage that opens from the upper floor found by listening to the faint scratching from within. Girolamo Maleval, the dupe, frustrated bureaucrat and crazed axe murderer. See, now that's a personality. You can work with that. He's trapped within, driven to the end of his wits among stacks of moldy old forms in his stamp collection. The 1 in 3 chance of violent mood swing. He's a crazed axe murderer, but it's implied that he doesn't necessarily automatically attack the group right away. And he has only a 1 in 3 chance of having a violent mood swing. Yeah, I would say more often than not in old school D&D, you don't have enemies that just attack on sight. Even though I think that's very much the expected MO of modern D&D. Maybe. Like I said, I don't play modern D&D that much. At all. A secret passage opens from the upper floor. So we're not on the upper floor. Maybe this isn't open? I think maybe... Do we think maybe this little section here is what's open? That probably makes more... Yeah, that definitely makes more sense, because there's an opening here in the wall. I think the staircase actually goes up to the 2nd floor here, or the 3rd floor of the castle, and you can go here. So I think this part is open. So... This is the secret passage where he is. And this star is a statue on the upper floor and depicts the Grim Reaper holding a book full of names. Anyone who tries to read the book will find their name therein and will come face to face with the Reaper's manifestation. This is a one-on-one fight, and those who try to help will get their own Reapers. If the character is victorious, his or her name will be struck from the book, avoiding death the next 1d3 times. But you have to solo fight a Reaper. 14 AC, 19 health, 1d6 plus paralysis damage. Sounds a little tricky for level 1. But maybe by the time you get this, you'll be level 2. There's a lot of treasure in this place, so definitely plausible. Should I have Milligar solo a Reaper? There is a Reaper in the Bestiary, but it's difficulty 16, and Milligar will not be able to solo that for a long time. So I don't know what's the general difficulty equivalent here. Maybe difficulty 4 is possible. Seems a little iffy. Like, if I do this Revenant, difficulty 4, 60 health. You know, I'm swinging, what, 5d6 now on average? I could cast my buff at this point. We haven't really done anything, but I could cast my buff. So that would be 6d6 damage, which on average is like 21 damage. So on average, I'd kill that Revenant in 3 hits. But he would definitely be butchering me pretty good. He gets 2 attacks per round. And he's rolling +2 with 2 boons. Yikes. So chances are he's gonna hit every round. There's not much I can do about it. Because he's going to get a boom. I guess I can dodge, so I can dodge 1, but okay. And then on it, he does 3d6 damage per turn, which is an average of 14 or something. I only have 18 health. So, yeah, I don't think Milligar will win against a Revenant solo. And I think that's probably true for the Reaper for most characters. You're probably not going to win solo. So, yeah, pretty tricky. Do we want to encounter Girolamo Malevol, the dupe? Well, let's roll an intellect with Synthis, see if we find the secret passage. We don't, so it's a moot point. Moving on. We're going to the records room, which is right up in the library, right through the door. 8 hunchback scribes, non-combatants, 2 HP each, are chained to writing desks in this dimly lit chamber stuffed with paper stacks and filing cabinets. The scribes labor tirelessly on collecting opinions and quotes they find offensive to sate their perverted cravings. They collect opinions and quotes they find offensive to sate their perverted craving. Okay, so they're taking books from the library, I guess. Taking papers and documents from the library and just writing down opinions and quotes they find offensive. There's a 1 in 6 chance of stack of papers being dumped down the trapdoor hidden in the rafters. This leads to the secret passage upstairs. Okay, well, let's roll a 1d6. That might lead us to the trapdoor. We didn't get it. So that does not happen. Visitors may find that all of their inconsequential, half-forgotten slip-ups have been meticulously recorded and cataloged. Oh, okay. In case of NPCs, 1 in 6 of finding something in 1d3 turns, but it will be of trivial significance. There is nothing of value in the room. But that's true for a lot of rooms, so I don't know why you felt the need to state it here. Again, it's one of those rooms that's just like, this is weird and interesting, and maybe your players will really delve into this. In which case, this small amount of text and description is not going to sate their curiosity, and you're going to have to come up with stuff, to keep things going. Because no one, I mean, it's lame. It's lame if your DM just says, look, guys, there's nothing here. Please move on. That's lame. That's not playing the game. And if you're the type of DM that can't improv a little bit, can't come up with something to run off from that, that's something to work on. Because that's sort of the expectation, is that every thread can be pulled on, Every thread that the players find can be pulled on, even if initially there was nothing else to that thread. They can all be pulled on, and there needs to be more thread. So, yeah. Again, I like rooms like this. I think this is good stuff for a dungeon like this, or a location like this. I think that kind of stuff is a lot better than telling me about a fucking princess statue and what happens if you kiss it, and if you do, it turns into a troll and destroys you. That's lame and dumb and stupid. This, more interesting. For us, though, there's not really much we can say about it or do with it, because we're here mostly for combat. The seance room. Of course, every big castle has to have a seance room. Vivid red banners hang on the walls. A black carpet with red diamond patterns covers the floor. Burning candelabra in the four corners shed light on the pedestal in the middle of the room with a wooden chest on top. Ooh. There's a 2 in 3 chance that the first character stepping into the room is surrounded by a silvery circle of protection versus good. While a disembodied voice asks, "What purpose is the source of thy affront?" Whatever the answer is a deep mwahahahahaha. There is no other effect. The chest opens with a loud bang, containing nothing but stale air. Immediately thereafter, the door slams and light sources in the room extinguish one by one. A secret bottom of the chest contains 3,000 gold pieces, a hammer, and 7 stakes. Alright, again, I think this is decent. This does not require anything like just fucking miraculous on the player's side of just like, who would ever do that? Why would they ever do that? This is insane. This is just something that happens. And at the end of the day, it's nothing. I mean, nothing else really occurs. According to the module. Again, you could do whatever you want. If you want something to happen here, have something happen here. If it's been like an hour and you know that your group likes combat and they haven't found any combat, you could have some spirits come out of the walls in the darkness or something, I don't know. You do something. But even without that, they're going to be probably weirded out by the voice and the question and the lights going out one by one. And, they're going to be pretty tense here in this room for the most part. Searching for a secret bottom of the chest. I think that's fairly unlikely, but yeah, I imagine plenty of old school players are fairly meticulous when it comes to stuff like that. And they would be rewarded quite handsomely with 3,000 gold pieces. I think at this point you could afford that long ship if you want. Captain's room. The work of time and rats have reduced this room into ruins. One of the canopied bed's legs have given away, and the whole thing is falling apart. Pillows are pierced by numerous small holes. A weapon cabinet with broken display windows stands by the west wall next to an empty armor rack. An invisible shape sleeps in the bed. I feel like, honestly, the module could have just written that and just left it. Just an invisible shape sleeps in the bed, and it's like, oh, damn. What the hell's going on with that? That's weird and wild. But if woken, it shouts, "Attention!" making all weapons in the cabinet stand and clatter. Characters have to hold on to theirs not to lose them. On the command of "at ease," the weapons drop again. Otherwise, they strike the nearest character on the next round, -3 if held onto. One of each weapon type also emerges from the cabinet. A weapon that's successfully struck or restrained stops attacking. The shape is dispelled by a single hit or turning attempt. Okay. So, characters have to hold on to their weapons not to lose them. And then at ease, the weapons drop again. And so I assume the players have to hold on to theirs if they don't want to lose them, which they probably would. And then the following round, they strike the nearest character, -3 if held onto. So I would run that as, I'd just go clockwise, assuming everyone's in the room, you know. And everyone just rolls a melee attack against the next person in line with a Bane. Yeah, that's probably how I'd run that. One of each weapon type also emerges from the cabinet. A weapon that's successfully struck or restrained stops attacking. I think I'd mostly just like run that as one strike, you know, around the party, and then that's pretty much it. Yeah. But honestly, I would say that would be that what they wrote there is kind of the least interesting way that I would have followed up with an invisible shape sleeps in the bed. Like, this seems so, like, I don't know, anomalous and weird to me, this line. And then they followed up with some really just, like, kind of corny D&D shit. So, I don't know, I maybe would just rewrite that whole thing to be more weird and wild. Or just say that. Just tell the party an invisible shape sleeps in the bed. And just see where they take it, you know? I think that's a lot better. The cabinet's badly defaced doors still hold, although the glass panes showing off the collection inside are smashed and broken. There are 36 daggers, 4 maces, 7 sabers, 2 battle axes, and 4 bastard swords in the cabinet. Someone has also hidden a bottle of fine wine in the bottom, along with a box of 6 military medals, 300 gold pieces each. There's another 1,800 gold for you. Ridiculous. Let's roll another random encounter check. 6, nothing. But I think you can tell by this point through this dungeon that combat is actually not a major focus. I went into this thinking like, okay, I'm going to make 2 combat characters. They're going to be decked to the nines for combat, and we're going to do a mega dungeon where we're fighting stuff every room, you know, and just ripping and tearing. That's not the case with Castle Xyntillan. And I think that's good. I mean, don't get me wrong. That is a very positive aspect of the module. It's just, this is mostly becoming a let's read. Whereas I probably could have picked some other dungeon, some other heftier dungeon that is mostly just combat encounters. But, I mean, if you want a dungeon that's mostly combat encounters, you can just do that yourself, you know. You can just get a map of a dungeon. Here, I'll even show you. We'll go on another weird tangent. This isn't a weird tangent, it's just a tangent. Let's see here. Let's see here. Here. Okay. So this is a Dyson Logos map, right? And you know, he's got loads of them. So this is just a generic dungeon, and it's just labeled, but there's no... I think we actually did this once early on in solo rollman. I think this may have been where we fought the frog guy afterwards. Yeah, I think I remember using this. So I actually, I already did what I'm trying to tell you. Just grab one of these random maps of a dungeon, and then just go through and just be like, okay, in this room, there's this encounter. And ideally, it's somewhat thematic. You know, it's not just like a collection of random monster encounters. It has some sort of theme tying it together. So you'd say, okay, this is like a frog folk dungeon, or this is an undead dungeon, or this is, I don't know, an insect related one, or there's orcs inhabiting this dungeon, or, you know, something like that. But you can mix it up a little bit to throw something in there that's unusual, and then just make an imbalanced encounter for each room, and there you go, done. No one needs to really write that for you. And for the record, I don't think that's a good idea. And I think if you have a group that likes that idea, they may be interested in board games instead. Perhaps look into purchasing Gloomhaven. They might like that quite a bit instead. But I do also think that there are dungeons. There are modules out there that are pretty similar to that, you know. But I don't know, even in modern... No, okay, so... The one that I did a thing for Weird Wizard solo that I didn't upload because it got corrupted. But I ran a 5th edition third-party module called something Skyhorn Lighthouse, written by the creator of Shadow Dark. And that's what was like, okay, I've heard good things about this. Good author, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I was running through that. That was basically just like a series of 8 combat encounters. And that was basically the whole module. So I do think there are modules out there. And that was like a highly regarded one. So there's probably plenty of crappy modules that are just a dungeon filled with 8 combat encounters and then you're done. And I don't know why anyone would want to play that. Even compared to this, which is just a big ball of kind of weird and wild little encounters. And yeah, many of them are big nothing burgers of just essentially empty rooms or essentially no danger whatsoever. But it's the unknown. Like it's dungeon delving and figuring out what's happening and again, pulling on different threads that may or may not be there. And I don't know. For our purposes, like I said, it's kind of weird. Or kind of just not really what I intended for this little series to be. But it was mostly just, I did this because I wanted to take a look at what a mega dungeon is. And I think a mega dungeon is a lot more interesting than I probably thought. While also being pretty much exactly what I thought. I definitely thought a mega dungeon had a lot more combat. But I also figured that a lot of the rooms would just be kind of weird and have nothing going on in them. So, yeah. The Nook nearby. Tom Nook. The statue of a caveman stands opposite the entrance to the privy. A half-broken plaque on the pedestal reads, "To sit on the throne yonder, tarry not one bit. It is no great wonder to have a pleasant..." Nice. That's pretty good. I like that. I should get that on a sign and put it in my own bathroom. A plaque on the finely carved imposing Gothic privy reads, "The excellent throne of sitting in contentment." No random encounter disturbs this place. A shaft descends to the much simpler privy north of B1, and rungs climb up to the even fancier one at C19. But halfway up, there is a blade trap in the wall. Save or take 2d6 damage and fall down for 1d6 more. 1 in 3 probability of breaking through the privy for 2d6 more damage. Okay, so for our purposes, we'd probably double all those numbers. Which means, yes, it is very dangerous. But keep in mind, in Weird Wizard, you can never go over your damage threshold before becoming incapacitated. So, say Sithnis here gets smoked by the Fist of God, and she takes 500 points of damage. All I would do is write that. And she would be incapacitated. That's it. All damage in excess of your max health is just lost. It's just gone. It's a very weird mechanic, and it's a big part, I think, of what makes this such a Care Bear thing. And I have heard of people changing that, where excess damage is deducted from your health, which means that you can die in a single attack. I think that's probably far more reasonable, and I probably would also implement that. Even though it's intended to be a less lethal system, it just doesn't make sense. Because in this case, our entire party could jump off of a cliff, 1,000-foot tall cliff, no feather fall, no nothing, and we're just like, yeah, we'll be fine. And we hit the bottom and we take, you know, fucking 100 d6 damage or something, and we all immediately go down, and then we all roll a luck roll and we're back up. It's ridiculous. Now, there's 1,000,000,001 spells and magic items that could save us anyways, but still, there's got to be some sense of realism in place. Otherwise, it's just Looney Tunes. So, yeah, I'd also probably implement that where you can take damage and it deducts from your health. Because if you take any damage after you're incapacitated, it does deduct from your health. It's just for some reason they have the rule that any damage you take that is in excess of your health when you go down is lost. I don't know if that's just sort of an ease of play thing or something. I'm not sure, but it's Looney Tunes. So I wouldn't stick with that rule. And that does mean that you can die. Definitely a lot easier. Like, this trap could kill you if you take 4d6 from the blade trap and then another 2d6. I mean, that's 21 damage on average. So on average, that would bring Xynthis down to incapacitated with like 7 health. And then if she takes 1d6 at the end of the round, you know, that could be another like 5 health. And then if she fails the luck roll, if someone doesn't get her back up, she's probably dead. But honestly, I think that's fair. There's plenty of opportunities for that to not occur. So, small house rule definitely makes it more of a lethal game, but I think it's logical and fair and fine. So, yeah, that's how I would go for it. I mean, let me just double check that I'm saying all this. Yeah, right here. When your damage total equals your health score, you fall prone and become incapacitated. Any damage taken in excess of that causing you to become incapacitated is lost. If you take damage while incapacitated, you instead lose health equal to the amount of damage you would take. So yeah, it's exactly as I just said. And I think that's dumb. So. And God forbid any players get wind of that, because like I said, they'll be doing that cliff jumping Looney Tunes shit. And yeah, you could, as the DM, say, well, I mean, within reason. I mean, but, you know, if you're following the rules, your reason doesn't mean jack shit, because the rules state that I only take 14 damage from it, and fuck you. So, change the rules. Anyways, my thoughts on the privy? Well, I mean, I like that you can go up and down on the privy, and then if you go down, it's all safe and fine. You go down to B1. If you go up, you just, you know, you get a save at least. That's good. And yeah, I'm just trying to think of running this in Weird Wizard, I don't think you'd give them like a clue or anything. If they just say, okay, I'm going to climb up the rungs, I'm going to climb up the ladder, and that's all they said. I mean, you wouldn't give them a clue that it's trapped. They would have to specify that they're climbing up and they've got a light and they're like being very cautious going up to see if there's anything dangerous, you know, like a loose rung or anything like that. In which case, then I probably would either tell them that there's a trap. Because even knowing there's a trap, I mean, it's still not great. It doesn't say how the trap is integrated, how it activates. I would imagine it's just one of the rungs. It's a little different, and if you pull on it, that triggers the trap. That's the most sensible. So you could just then not, you could skip over that rung. Yeah, I think that's probably how I'd run it. So if they didn't say anything, they just climb up the ladder, then all they get is the save, just an agility save. And then they take 4d6 followed by... Maybe I wouldn't double that to 2d6. I might keep that at 1. Anyways. Moving on. We're going over to C9. Yep, C9. Beatrice's boudoir. Purple drapes hang from the ceiling, forming a canopy above the room and concealing the door in the north wall. A torn silk gown rests on a dressing screen, from behind which sobbing sounds emanate. And again, that's all you'd say, you know, you just mention the torn silk gown on a dressing screen and you hear sobbing sounds from the other side. And then, you know, players would either want to investigate or they want to get the fuck out of there, one of the two. Behind the dressing screen stands a chained and padlocked casket. The blackened and shriveled form of Beatrice Langlois Malival the Jilted, still wearing her bridal clothes, leaps out if her prison is open. So, if you go behind the dressing screen, and you're bold enough to do that, you find a chained and padlocked casket. And if you're dumb enough to unchain it and open it up, then a blackened and shriveled undead leaps out in her bridal clothes. Let's just take a glance then at number 10 in the Rogues Gallery. Perpetually mourning her marriage to first cousin Bartholomew Goncourt Malival the Philanderer, her thoughts are on vengeance and little else. She's encountered randomly. There's a 1 in 6 chance of having 1d6 undead ladies with her. She's blackened and shriveled. She still wears her wedding clothes and a diadem of fresh flowers. She can be pacified by either promising to right her hurt, which involves bringing her Bartholomew's head, or declaring everlasting love, the latter which she wants to consummate at once. Ooh. And she's spec'd pretty much as a ghoul with paralysis. She always wins initiative, though. And I've heard some people talking about how to convert things like that over to Weird Wizard. And, I mean, some people have said they just run it, like, where they go, even if you take the initiative, that monster will go first, no matter what. And I think that's interesting and kind of, you know, that's fair. That is something different. Taking the initiative doesn't necessarily always 100% guarantee you go first. And she rises 1d3 turns after being put down and pursues with newfound determination. That's tricky. That's kind of fun, though. So they, you know, say they kill her, you know, normal combat with her, and they win, and she's down, and she's not moving. And then, like, 20 minutes later, when they're in some other room or doing something else, she, like, bursts open through the door, and she's got, like, all her injuries still from where they cut her or whatever, and her clothes are shredded now, and she's just got a wild look in her eyes and charges in again. That second time, they're gonna fucking burn that corpse to cinders and chop it up, you know? They're gonna be damn certain. So I think that's kind of fun. yeah, again, this this is a big part of this whole module, is this family and the fact that there's so many of these Malevals that you can encounter, because they all have unique potential for role-playing opportunities and interesting encounters and stuff like that are not necessarily combat or anything like that. Honestly, I wish this whole section was like twice as long and there was like twice as much text for each one. And I wonder if anyone hasn't tried to flesh this out a bit more. Not all of them are Malevals, only 60 of them are, I guess. Or so. Because then you get into the staff. So these are just potential random encounters that can occur. But yeah, still, there's a lot of Malevals you can encounter, and I think they're all potentially interesting. I just wish they were more fleshed out of, like, reasons that they might not attack, or, you know, things that they want. I think this one that we found here is actually really good. Beatrice. I think there's plenty of clear potential here. She's got like a backstory that she could tell, you know. And you could kind of roleplay as her growing more and more like unstable as the conversation continues, and, you know, like sort of indicate that she does seem like she's about to kind of lash out, giving the players an opportunity to steer it maybe in the other direction, or just be like, fuck it, and let's just cut off her head, and then she comes back. I think this one's really good. This is one of the most interesting so far that I've read. I mean, man, this is a big ass dungeon. We've gone not far at all. Okay. The northern closet contains a dressing table with powders, perfumes, and a silver mirror. A puzzle box holds a collection of shiny beetles. And the puzzle box is worth 1,000 gold pieces? Come on, dude. That is not a realistic price. It's worth 5 sets of full plate armor. It's worth half of a fishing boat. How ornate is this puzzle box? Anyways, the bust gallery. Once vivid purple curtains and drapes have faded to pale pinks, while the luxurious wood paneling has been scratched by rat claws and tunneled into. A row of busts depict various family members. There's Maximilian Maleval the Malign. He's got an evil smile. He halves maximum hit points for rest of expedition if bothered. Jesus. Yeah, I mean, it's nice that they put rest of expedition, so it's not permanent or anything. That's pretty nice of them. Aristide Maleval the Patrician, half of stern, noble face has been peeled off to reveal skeletal grin. Eustace Maleval the Lacerated has been stabbed several times. And there's a sword +1. Scrupulous. Law, Ego 15, notes shifting walls. Is still struck through the head. Law, Ego 15, notes shifting walls. What? Is this in the treasury? Scrupulous. +1 sword of law. Ego 15, notes shifting walls. Ego. Yeah, I think old school, like, sentient swords who had ego scores? Or am I thinking of something else? Yeah, intelligent weapons. That's their level of sentience. Weapon ego. Ego, along with intelligence, will be a factor with regard to the dominance of weapon over character. Okay, Ego 15 seems obscenely high based on these rules of what I can see. But this is 2nd edition, so we would want 1st edition rules. Or specifically Sword and Wizardry. Obviously, the point is that it's a sentient sword. It's an intelligent weapon. I don't really see any information in Swords and Wizardry about any of that. Oh, I guess... Oh, no, you combine Ego with the intelligence? It's a moot point that we're basically skipping over entirely. Basically, the whole point of Ego is, like, how much control and dominance it has over the wielder of the sword. So if it can, like, take control of the player at times or things like that. It's definitely an old concept that does not exist anymore, as far as I know. That probably went away in, like, 3.5 edition. Yeah, it's something that, yeah, went away probably for the best. Okay, here's from original D&D. You add the intelligence and egoism of the sword and add an extra 1 for every extraordinary ability. And this will total a number from 8 to 28, which is then compared to the total of the character's intelligence and strength, modified by a variable based on the physical state of the user. If you have no damage, then 1 to 6 points are added to his intelligence and strength total. And then less points are added. And if you're injured or under severe mental strain from some form of magic, you deduct 2 to 8 points. And then you check the difference between... Again, this is all just old nonsense now, but you check the difference between the intelligence and egoism of the sword and the player, and if there's a difference of 6 or more, the higher score prevails. If there's a smaller difference, then you do a roll to determine if it prevails or not. So the player could have a higher total, beat it by 5 points, but then there would still be a 25% chance that it's dominated by the sword's will. Right. Now, what does that mean for us? Basically, entirely ignore it, I would say. I don't have the patience or the interest in running intelligent weapons that talk to their players. I don't even really like running NPCs that, like, stick with the party and I have to keep role playing as continually. I don't even like doing that. Just because it's another thing that I always have to remember of, like, oh yeah, they're there, they should be saying something, they should be doing something. It's like, no, let the players handle all the doing, and I'll just handle all the reactions, you know, pretty much. So if a player wants a sentient sword that's gonna, you know, talk to them or anything like that, then that's all on them. They can roleplay that to their fucking heart's content, and if they want to talk as the sword and talk, you know, and do all that, fine. But don't put that shit on me. So, I'd probably just change this to a +1 sword of law or something, a +1 sword of something. Maybe it would be it would be an interesting magic sword. Not super powerful or anything, but it would just be some kind of magic sword. That's all I would do with it. Call me lazy, call me unimaginative, whatever you want, but yeah, I think there's definitely a reason that talking swords have faded away in a lot of games. Claudette Malleable the Innocent has 2 gemstone eyes, each worth 5,500 gold pieces. The sockets bleed if removed. And Priscilla Malleable the Undulating. What a title. Has no shadows and will steal characters if the statue is bothered. Will steal characters? I think you've missed a word here, because it says a save or -2 con. Which, not even until the end of rest. It's just -2 con. You gotta get that removed somehow. Jeez. Alright, C11. The laboratory. Someone has stuffed several shredded bedclothes into a large basket. 5 large glass jars on a shelf above a writing desk contain an opalescent liquid. The basket is full of severed heads. One wears the Amulet of Wolf Kind. The wearer can befriend and command wolves and other canines as turn undead. Alright, I like that. I think that's fun. That's cool. I definitely have some players that would love that. Suspended in one of the jars is a homunculus, peering outside and knocking on the glass surface to draw attention. It tries to communicate through gestures and accurately senses danger, but dies if the jar is opened. If a character tries, the tiny figure panics and gesticulates to get away. 1 in 6 chance of knocking over his prison in excitement. Okay, again, I really like that. I think that's very fun stuff. Fun and weird and just like, things to make players go, what the hell is going on here? What are we going to do with this? What is the meaning of this? We're going to take this with us. We got this little, he can sense danger. He's got spidey sense, but he can only communicate through gestures. There's a decent chance one of your players is going to have some form of telepathy, though. So, maybe. What an existence he's got. Maybe they'll find a way to free him and let him live a normal life. You never know. You never know with these threads you put out there. There's a small glass dome on the desk holding 12 flying and buzzing sparks, inflicting 12 damage if released. Sometimes, you fuck around and find out and it's bad. Sometimes you fuck around and find out and it's good. You never are quite sure. And that's that. Again, I know I'm just like skipping over every room. I'm not doing anything in any room. We're just kind of like, this is like a museum that we're just walking through and being like, oh, that's strange. Look at that's very interesting. Yeah, very curious. Doesn't look like there's anything for me to kill in here, so let's move on. Okay, Knight's Hall. This is a big one. It's 2 levels. Inlaid floor, rich paneling, collection of weapons and trophies. Faint sounds of merriment drift from the upstairs gallery. Reserved for the higher-born folk to drink a few cups in peace or sit by the huge fireplace and complain about the weather. 5 headless manservants stand by to serve mulled wine or throw out anyone who looks like rabble. There's a 1 in 6 chance of 1d2 family members in here. A suit of armor stands in the southwest corner, looking too old and battle-scarred to be usable, with an arrow lodged in its right leg. If someone remarks aloud on this condition, the suit of armor places a curse on the character, save or reduced movement due to limping, exclaiming there, who's laughing now? If attacked, it fights back. Okay, so now you have to listen to see if anyone is going to comment about there being an arrow in its right leg. Basically, someone making an arrow in the knee joke is what you're listening for, I guess. An enormous sword is suspended above the fireplace, and there's a 1 in 3 chance of it falling on an unsuspecting character. Save or take 3d6 HP damage. Rungs in the chimney lead up to D13. The musician's balcony on the upper floor is now a repository of dusty, rat-eaten instruments and a large wardrobe holding the chewed-up corpse of the conductor, and a swarm of rats. The 1 in 3 chance of collapsing under weight of 3 or more characters. Alright, let's roll the 1 in 6 of the D2 family members. No. Let's roll a random encounter check. No. There are 5 headless manservants here. Do we think that we look like rabble? Probably, to be honest. I would imagine so. So we've got headless manservants. Now, they're pretty standard skeleton basic enemies, I guess, but their attack does 1d8 damage, which is pretty hefty, to be honest, and strangle. So they can strangle for 1d8 per round. So they're doing grab attacks, pretty much. So I don't know if I'd want to come up with a... I don't think I'd come up with a new stat block just for these. We'd probably run them as Ravagers or regular skeletons. Yeah, I mean regular skeleton. That's the template, right? So a regular skeleton, but instead of a sword, they use their hands. And that's going to be 1d6 plus... how do we want to do that? I don't think you want to just do a guaranteed grab. So maybe like an agility roll, and if you fail, then you're grabbed. I don't know. I'd like to find... I'd like to find some other creature in this bestiary that has some sort of grab attack, because that would make it a lot easier. I think the slime has basically what I'm talking about. So, yeah, the Sinister Jelly has a body slam. So it's not an attack. I mean, it's +3 versus agility. And then on a success, target loses health, falls prone, and becomes held. So basically, we could roll it like that. It's just a +2, and it's against agility. And then on a success, they take damage and become grabbed. Okay. I guess I run it like that. So, the headless manservants, you know, they turn, and one of them, you just hear a voice, you know, in a very old British accent, you know, stating that we are rabble and we must leave the premises or be thrown out. And we've been itching for combat, so we're not going anywhere. So we're just gonna go. We're just gonna fight. I didn't cast Wild Vigor. Fuck it. I mean, let's just do it. I'm gonna cast Wild Vigor real quick while they're talking. Milligard sharpens his claws. Of course, we did cast Armor of the Ancient Oak and Protection from Elements at the start of the day. We always do that. So, okay. Combat initiates as they all turn and round on us. And I think we're just gonna shred. I mean, we could easily kill like 2 or 3 of them before they even get to go. So we'll both take the initiative. I know Milligard doesn't want to take the initiative too often because he wants to use Interpret Omen when he needs to. But we can... These things are weak. They're just manservants. So he's gonna, you know, bounce in like Wolverine and roll. He also has 28 health currently, so I guess I could write that in. For an hour. And he's got 2d6 bonus dice. So +4 here. He crit. So this is now 7d6 damage against one of them. 31. Yeah. Fucking Wolverine, man. And actually, I reroll that one, so it's a bit higher. Yeah! That's what I'm talking about. And he howls after shredding this manservant. Then Synthis. Let's use fire arrows. Because, you know, we're almost done with this video, so I want to use fire arrows. So up to 3 creatures, 3 of these manservants. And we're rolling will versus agility for each one. We got no boons of any kind. Nothing special here. It's just +5 against their agility of 10. So first one, that is a miss. Sadly, nothing I can do about it. We don't have Interpret Omens. That would save it. Second one, hit. Third one, crit. Actually, second and third one, they're both crits. So 2 of the manservants are going to take 4d6 damage. Jesus, only 8. Okay, so we killed one. All right, so we have 2 at full health, 1 at 2 health. Then they get to go, so they're all going to be attacking Milligar. So the first one is just using its... So this is versus his agility with their attack, which is slightly worse than his defense. So there's 3 rolls plus 2. They would have a boon from surrounding him, but it's removed by combat precognition. So it's just +2. They need a 12 or better. 1, 2, 3. One of them hit. Definitely. And so that's 1d6 damage. 1 damage. Okay. And he is grabbed. So one of the manservants has him grabbed. Fortunately, it was the third one in the row. Because if it was the first one, then the others could have really pounced on him. What does it mean to be grabbed, you ask? Since we haven't encountered it a whole lot. So he's held until the end of that manservant's next turn. Which means that his speed is 0. And creatures rolling against his agility get an automatic success. Which means all, like I said, all other manservants then would have automatically hit him. And they would have also grabbed him. So to prevent that now, he has to escape on his turn as an action by making a strength or agility roll against the strength or agility of the creature that has you held. And you have to, and people agreed that probably multiple creatures can grab you, and you have to roll as an action against each of them one at a time. So multiple grabs is really bad, because then they basically automatically just wrestle you to the ground and choke you out. So it's pretty dangerous. It doesn't list escape as an action, but I mean, it's obviously an action, right? What else would it be? It's got to be an action. I mean, no one ever says that it's an action, but it's got to be an action. So yes. What else would it be? it would specifically state it's a reaction if it was. All right, new round. So again, we got 3 of them up. One of them has 2 health left. So, Synthis, take the initiative. Milligar's gotta take the initiative. Probably. Synthis is going to use Pressure Jet against the one with 2 health left. So Will versus Strength. That's a hit. Or, oh my god. Alright, 1 damage. Pretty lame. She does push him 5 yards, though. So, he loses the grab. Pretty pathetic. And Milligar is going to go, and he's going to try to shred one of the other ones. And he rolls also a maybe crit. Yeah, I think it's a crit. So 76, definitely dead. So we've got 1 at 1 health, 1 at full health. They get to go. Pretty sure they have a speed of 5. Yeah, so the other one just moves back in. So they get the surrounded benefit again. They're each rolling +2. Hit, hit. Okay. I shouldn't have rolled it like that because the second one automatically succeeded. It doesn't really matter too much. Both of them do 1d6 damage. So that's 2d6. 8. Ouch. Up to 9. But with that +10 health, it's a lot harder for me to become injured now. I would normally be injured right now, but I have to go up to 14 to be injured. Now they both have me grab. But being grabbed does not impugn your ability to attack in any way. So I think that's kind of weird. I don't know if I agree with it. I also don't know if I want a house rule that you have a Bane for every target grabbing you. But it's probably reasonable. But I think the point of being grabbed is mostly to get wrestled to the ground. Because if you get pinned, then you are weakened, and so you do have Banes. So I don't think a grab is meant to represent like a chokehold or something. I think it's meant to represent just like he's got his hand on you, you know. He's in a position, his body's in a position, your body's in a position where he could wrestle you to the ground. I guess that's how I'm interpreting all this. So they're gonna go again. Synthis goes. She's gonna pressure jet the guy with 1 health, of course. She got a 14 versus strength. That's a hit. He's dead. And then Milligar will attack the other one. That's a 10 with a boon. 13. That's a hit for 66 damage. Dead. All right. Problem solved. Yeah, I mean, they had a grab, and their attack was against agility, and that was all built in. But you saw how dangerous that could be if any of them got an extra turn. If there was like 6 of them on them, we might not be able to get them all off before they go again, and then they start wrestling you to the ground. I think there's actually been some errata about wrestle, because a wrestle says you make a strength or agility roll against the target's choice of strength or agility. But the target would never pick agility because it's an automatic failure from being grabbed. So I think I read somewhere that there is like a correction about that. I don't remember what it was. But yeah, I mean, just having normal enemies that don't automatically do a grab as part of their attack, just have them grab as swarm the frontline fighter, has a lot of potential to be really dangerous. All right, well, that was the end of that encounter. So I think we're done pretty much with there. And I think we're pretty much done with this video. Yeah, so as I've been saying, this is mostly us just kind of reading Xyntillan. And I like, actually, initially my very first impressions were like, okay, this is going to be kind of cool and interesting. Then there was a period there where I was thinking more of, this is just weird, and I don't know if I actually would ever run this or anything. Now I'm leaning more in the other direction. I think this is there is a lot of interesting stuff here. There is a lot of fun little rooms and potential for encounters with all the Malleables and stuff. And I would be more interested in running this now, actually. And actually sitting down and being like, okay, I know my players are going to be going to Xyntillan, and I know they're very interested in it, and they're going to be spending some time searching through it. So I'm going to sit down and really read through all these Malleables and get in the headspace of this whole mega dungeon. So yeah, I've got some positive feelings about it now. But solo going through this, it's not really what I expected. And I don't know how interesting these videos are to watch. We're like barely solo role playing here. Like for comparison, I know I was just about to end the video, but just for comparison, here's a different mega dungeon. Like, kind of the fucking mega dungeon. And it's gonna take me like 5 minutes just to load this up. But this is a different mega dungeon that's, yeah, much bigger, called the Halls of Arden Vul. And I don't know when I would ever even attempt to run this. It's one of those things, like, maybe I just plop it somewhere in a campaign, and just see if players ever encounter it and then go from there. But this is an entire, like, 2-year campaign that you would run, you know. This PDF file right here is 1,161 pages. It is insanely big. It is a 10-level dungeon, mega dungeon, but then there's also 15 sub-levels. And obviously this is spread across multiple volumes of books. So, I mean, let's just go to a random section here. Alright, so here's a random page. This is on floor level 8, I guess. And so you have rooms here that, I mean, most of the rooms here are not inhabited by anything. Actually, only 2 rooms listed here. There's this antechamber that's inhabited by 2 chaotic feasters. And, you know, there's a bunch of text here. And then there's another feaster's lair that has 2 more chaotic feasters. Everything else is just kind of different rooms with, like, small things in it, or you know, not much going on, and there's just, you know, room after room. And some of these things are, you know, little hazards or something like that. We skip around to... Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of text here for some of these rooms. Crazy amounts of text. And there's just so many rooms. And you have, yeah, like, here's a 9th level magic user that's here with his group, and you just encounter this, and yeah, it's just like, again, this would take years to play through. Here you have a goblin commander on the 5th level, and he tells you all, like, you know, his personality and what he's interested in and how to run him and stuff. I think it's a lot better. I'd like more information. Here you've got a room, beetles, bodies, doors to a vault. And it has GM notes and, you know, things like that. And this lengthy trap description. 24 small gold scarab beetles in there and treasure and just... I mean, this is just insane. I would never have a group ambitious enough that would want to actually play in a mega dungeon for 2 years or however long this would take. But I've heard a lot of good things about Arden Vol. And you wouldn't have to run it as a whole campaign. You literally could just take one section of one level of a dungeon and just put it as a dungeon somewhere. You know, there's plenty of interesting stuff here that isn't tied necessarily to the overall lore and factions and all that. But it's just so insanely massive that it's just incredible. So I almost was gonna run this or make some videos just looking at this, starting at level 1 and just kind of poking our way through. But then I went with Xyntillan because I had put it in my campaign already, and it's much smaller. But yeah. So this is all just like above ground stuff and like the exterior of the dungeon. Here's actual level 1. And so you got 20 giant centipedes in like one of the first rooms of the entire dungeon. Colony of 20 giant centipedes. They have 2 HP. They don't do any damage, but they do poison you. Which, you know, I don't even... Hold on. What does that mean? I mean, are you meant to just know what that means? Is someone running this just... I mean... Do they just know what poison means in general? Going off on like another weird tangent, and we're not... This isn't even the adventure that I'm playing. Oh, poison is just save or death. Seriously? I mean, that seems to be the case. Huh. Yeah, apparently it's just save or die. You have to save versus poison if you're bit, and if you fail, you do get a +4 on the roll, because these are really basic, weak creatures, I guess. But if you fail, you are dead. Make a new character. Yeah. I guess probably some people enjoy that sort of style. Obviously, the vast majority of gamers do not enjoy that style. Otherwise, this would still be the style. Right? I mean, right? I don't know. And then, in a spider closet, you can find 8 large spiders that have more health, and they do 1 damage, and you get +2 to your save or die. So that's nice. Yeah. You know, it's something. Now, again, like Weird Wizard is not this. It's an entirely different genre. Really, it's an entirely different game. And so making characters and having a lot of characters in this sort of game is very quick. It's very easy. You would just have like a stack of characters ready to go, you know. And probably you'd have like 12 characters going into this dungeon, technically, just ready to swap out or something like that. I mean, it's pretty easy come, easy go. Whereas a weird wizard character takes like half an hour to make. You're not going to have a stack of them ready to go, and it's not intended for you to just die from one bad dice roll. That's just very old school. So if I were to run Halls of Arden Vol in Weird Wizard, it would be obviously quite a bit different, and pretty much all these encounters would be relatively balanced encounters if I was going to run it for a group of people like my family. It wouldn't be giant 20 giant centipedes. It would be maybe 6 or something like that giant centipedes, and they wouldn't poison you and you save or die. But you know, they do have maybe a poison effect if you fail your save, and then you have to take damage every turn or something. Yeah. This is just another random tangent to go on, so it doesn't matter. But like I said, I thought about just checking out Halls of Arden Vol, because I'm so fascinated by it, just as like a piece of, just this monolithic piece of content. It's just remarkable that this exists. That a team of people have put together an 1,100 page dungeon. Like, it's just insane. So I'm very curious just to look into it a bit more. But like I said, I have a problem just sitting down and reading modules and books and stuff, RPG books. So I could never sit here and just read Arden Vol, and that's why I'm kind of interested to do one of these more like interactive let's read. But again, much like Xyntillan, it does seem to be somewhat similar, where there's a lot of just non-combat and role-playing opportunities. But it looks like there's probably a bit more combat, actually. Looking at all the rooms here. 18 Sturges in this room, a Carcass Creeper, skeletons, baboon skeletons, that's fun. Giant Constrictor snake, a Hermit, 3 stone monkeys. The spiders, the centipedes. Yeah, I don't know. I also don't know how interesting that would be either. But it would just be more of like, let's read through this insanity and just look at like a level of it. The first level is very small, and actually I did read when I was glancing at this that they don't even recommend most groups start at level 1. They only recommend level 1 if your players are like brand new to like old school D&D. But if they have any experience, they actually recommend starting on level 3. So that's where the dungeon like properly starts. Dungeon level 2 has 30. How many rooms? Quite a bit on level 2 though. That's pretty expansive. Oh, way more, yeah. Jesus. Level 2. Before the dungeon even properly starts, has 72 rooms. And then you get to level 3, the Halls of Thoth. And this is where a dungeon properly starts. However many rooms this floor has. Still going. Still going. Still going. Still going. Take your guess how many rooms level 3 of the dungeon has. Oh my god. 231 rooms, technically. Well, I should have... Okay, Okay, so here... Again, this has nothing to do with what we've been doing. But, here's the maps of Arden Vol. So this is the world, the setting that it's set in. So there's Arden Vol there. And then a more close-up of the region. This is the cliff face. So it's like up at the top of this massive cliff, and there's these giant statues and stuff. This is the top level, you know, the actual, like, the ruined city. Under the Pyramid of Thoth, Tower of Scrutiny. Here's level 1, the introductory level. That's a pretty standard dungeon, you know, that would be like a session or two or for just normal group poking through a dungeon. And then you get to level 2, the Howling Caves, and it's like, oh, fuck. Oh, shit. And then level 3. This is the map for level 3. Good lord. Level 4. Again. Level 5. 6. 7. 8. Good god. 9. And relatively simpler just because there's this, like, entire fucking biome in the middle of it. Good god. And then the secret areas of 9 you can access. 10, the Ziggurat. 10 levels deep into a mega dungeon. There you find a massive Ziggurat. And then all the sub-levels, which are probably relatively simple. But the Lesser Baboon Caves, that's still a dungeon. The Goblin Warrens. Oh man, yes, even that sub-level is pretty hefty. And there's 15 sub-levels you can check out as well. Yeah, so it's just like, it's like a phenomenon of just, I don't even know what to make of this whole thing. I'm amazed that anyone has ever played this in any significant capacity. To get down to like level 8 or something, to get down to the nether reaches. I can't imagine anyone actually playing and getting to that. But incredible. Incredible. Alright, anyways. All that is to say that I don't know, that might draw Castle Xyntillan to a close, actually. Because I feel like we gave it a good look. I knew we were never going to get anywhere close to finishing it, and we definitely didn't. But we explored a chunk of it, I would say. And I think we get the idea, that we get the gist of it. It's not, in general, compared to what we just saw from Arden Vull, I don't think it's as lethal. I think this is a bit more modern, a little bit in sensibility. There is a lot of weird stuff, and it is still dangerous, definitely. But I actually do like a lot of what I see, and I don't feel bad about dropping this into my Hexcrawl campaign in case the players stumble across it. I think it could offer up quite a bit of fun. But yeah, for our purposes, I mean, we kind of, it's mostly devolved into just reading through this thing, and then if we see something to fight, we just run a quick combat. So, you know, I don't think we need to belabor the point too much here. Yeah, I don't know what else I'd be interested in running solo as far as a pre-written thing. Because I feel like I've gotten a pretty good grasp of Weird Wizard at this point. And there's definitely cracks in the system. But, you know, nothing that can't really be house ruled. And it's been fun, you know, adding new stuff to the bestiary and thinking of different monsters and how that might work. But I don't know. I may put solo role Mangging to bed for a bit. I'm sure I'll come back to it though, because it is a lot of fun. And I love talking about RPGs. But now that my weekly group is starting up again of DMing, that usually is how I get my fill. So yeah, I think we're good. I think it's all good. So for now, my name is Mang. This has been Solo Roll Manging, Shadow of the Weird Wizard, Castle Xyntillan, and I will see you fine folks around.